The world's producers face an enormous challenge. They have to increase food production to meet the needs of the growing human population, and they need to reduce their impact on the planet, and they need to address the effects of climate change. And climate change is almost certain to make major parts of the world that we currently rely on for food unproductive. It will make food harder and more expensive to produce. Some people describe this as a perfect storm of problems, where the needs of the human population are growing, the impact on the planet has to shrink, and the effects of climate change mean the old ways of doing things are becoming much, much harder.
Climate change is not making things easy, but I have to have hope. I have to believe that everybody's doing their part, and communities, farmers, industry, politicians, we are all doing our part, trying to build more resilient and efficient systems. Food systems that actually are efficient in terms with our natural resources, that respect cultural and experience from farmers and the cultural knowledge from indigenous and Afro-descendants communities, but also food systems that produce enough food for everybody.
The impact on food systems is going to be around where, when, and how we produce food. Places will change, the times of the year that we're able to grow food is going to change, and how we do it is going to change as we go forward in the future.
The future of food really depends on ensuring that farmers across Canada and around the world have the tools that they need so that they truly can be the best stewards of the land, ensuring good yields, good production, and most importantly, tools that will make them competitive at a global level.
My research focuses in the area of controlled environment agriculture, which is anything from greenhouses to vertical farms. It reduces the transportation distances because we're growing in urban centers close to where the food is actually consumed. It substantially reduces the water we need to grow the plants because we're in an enclosed environment, so we're not losing water to evaporation. And we also can eliminate the use of pesticides because, again, we're in an enclosed environment, so we don't have the bugs and whatnot from outside. So all these things allow us to grow food in a way that will be less damaging to our climate and help reduce all the factors that are contributing to climate change. For example, growing in Canada's north or growing in desert regions or where it's too cold. By developing indoor agriculture, we can grow year-round, which will allow us to have a much more independent food system. More particularly with the research we're doing in our lab, we're doing all the research on how to take the different plants that we eat and grow them indoors. My hope for my research in vertical farming is that we can be growing highly nutritious, local food that's affordable for people to access, and that we can be growing that in all different climates all around the world.
My research is on small grain millet crops. I started working in a non-government organization that worked with small farmers in Nepal. These kind of crops demand less fertilizers, chemicals. It can tolerate low nutrient supply situations and also the dry conditions. Ontario, in this climate, when you harvest winter wheat, you still have more than 2 months of warm days, and that is not being utilized properly. There must be short duration millet crop that can chip in after the winter wheat until starts frost. Crops could be bred to make it not only yield better, but also face drought. There are a whole lot of crops that used to be grown by Nepalese farmers, many Asian farmers, African farmers. Now they are moving towards corn. Realize that people still want to grow millet crops, but they also need to improve the yield to have better economic returns. If we do not invest more on all those neglected crops, we will lose them. They will disappear.
There are many great challenges for humanity these days, and one of the major ones is climate change. One way of trying to mitigate that effect is to base our food system on plants. And so that means growing plants not only for starch, as we have in the past in the case of protein and corn, but as well in terms of protein. And we see the new world of lentils and chickpeas, favas and lupins, which will provide the protein necessary for the manufacture of protein-rich foods. One large effort that we have been working on is the replacement of palm oil. We started here for sustainability reasons. Palm oil leads to the loss in biodiversity in the tropical rainforests. And as well, we have this issue of having to transport large amounts of food materials across the ocean. So we really wanted to find a solution to this problem that did not require hydrogenation, by which we can take certain liquid vegetable oils and turn them into functional fats that can be used in most of the applications that palm oil can be used for.
My research is looking at soil health from the principle of building carbon. The single most important function of soil is the structure of soil organic matter. The structure of the soil will increase the resilience of agricultural production and will enhance the ability of the soil to hold nutrients, to hold water, and it will also stabilize more carbon in the soil.
We were going to have more extreme events of drought and flooding. What we need is a system that is resilient to that change. And there are a number of ways to do that. For example, crop diversification. So using a crop rotation that is more adapted to these extreme events. If you drive through the countryside, you will see greenery in the summer, but then after harvest, the fields are usually brown or bare. During those shoulder seasons, we can grow crops that are grown specifically to feed the soil, called cover crops. They add additional carbon that feeds the microbes, and then that cycle of nutrients and carbons in the soil, they increase soil health in the long run. And with improved soil health, we have an agricultural system, a cropping system that is more resilient to climate change.
My research focused on agri-food systems in remote areas in Colombia. There are a lot of illicit economies because we don't have enough infrastructure, there is insufficient capacities, skills, there is no a government support. We see young girls, young men, 13, 14 years old, who are starting to crop coca. They are located in one of the most biodiversity countries in the world. So what's going on? We need to implement sustainable agri-food systems that provide jobs, nutritious food, that provide economic incentives for them. Food insecurity is not only about not having access to food, it's also about food autonomy. Where does my food come from? Communities are importing food. And it's really curious because it's you have land and you have water and soil to grow food. What's happening?
The future of food depends upon finding collaborative solutions across the food value chain. We think of food waste as one of those wicked problems. Municipalities run their food waste programs really well. Right now, a lot of us, we don't even really think about where our waste goes. So there are a lot of different reasons why we have so much food waste. When it comes to food insecurity, there's one main driver. There's not enough income for people to buy the food that they need. It's income inadequacy. We need to find different ways of distributing food before it's been wasted, while it's still healthy and nutritious. We have done research with The Seed. They're an amazing community organization. One of the innovations that they've brought to the food security issue is a sliding scale pricing model. So this means that they sell food to a diversity of consumers, but there are options for people to pay less money if they're able to afford less.
My current research project is about finding out the different transmission routes of avian influenza viruses and how we can actually find different ways to mitigate this transmission. It would help to produce better chickens, and if you have better chickens, your economy goes up, it will help global food safety and security concerns, and you will have a sustainable food system.
The reality is that we are quite vulnerable to a lot of emerging diseases. Food security is tied very effectively to our domestic animal species and non-domestic animal species. For example, African swine fever. If African swine fever penetrates our system, it could have catastrophic consequences for our production system. It's critically important for us to have good systems put in place for surveillance, for monitoring, and also good systems for biosecurity to look after human health and animal health.
The future of food depends upon digital agricultural technology usages. This ranges from the use of SMS and call centers to alert farmers about agronomic advices to higher-end digitalization like automation and robotics or the use of drones for precision advisories. For farmers to alert them on agronomic advice or climate change information or connect them to markets, give them market prices. With digital tools, we increase their access to information in ways that can help them to adapt to the changing conditions in these uncertain and complex times.
It is important to help smallholder farmers to become more sustainable because they are the majority in developing countries in rural areas and they are usually left behind. It is not possible to think about sustainability and food security without them.
Research projects that I've done across the world, we typically bring together smallholder farmers and link them with markets that might be wholesalers, processors, retailers. We get them to work together, to collaborate, and in doing so, they end up producing more food with less waste at a higher price point for all those members of the food supply chain.
We are working for women to become leaders in the transformation of polluting industries into more sustainable and inclusive rural businesses. By applying green technologies easy to apply in their own coffee farms, women develop green skills and apply sustainable production concepts.
We've all been to the grocery store. We've seen prices increase year on year. We're seeing the impact of various climate events impacting the supply of food. We've seen COVID shutdowns impact our ability to get food. We've seen conflicts increase the price of ingredients, of fuel, fertilizer. This is having a big impact on the way food is made and the way it's moved to us when we buy it at a grocery store.
I feel it's very, very important that people appreciate the importance of producing good quality food close to home. And that means making sure that our farmers have opportunities to partner with industry to add value to what they grow in the fields.
Businesses make food. It's not people, it's people running businesses. And the system is driven by output, the food that it makes, but also by the profit and the impact it has on stakeholders. But those stakeholders include consumers, the environment, the planet as a whole. Canada can be a leader in the production, manufacturing, and marketing of sustainable food products.
There are three ways that Canada is going to lead the world in sustainable food production. First of all, we're going to be producers of food. We'll make sure that that food finds its way into the hands of people that need it.
Canada has a lot of land, has an incredibly efficient agricultural production. We have some of the best farmers, if you may, in the world, producing very large amounts of food in a very economical fashion.
Secondly, we're going to create new technologies, new processes, new ways of thinking, so that sustainability is embedded within food systems, and we can ship that thinking, that technology around the world so that others can make use of it, just as we will use it here in Canada.
And that's really important because food is not just the question of one country. Food comes from everywhere and you have so many networks, so you need to collaborate.
Students like me can take advantage to help their home countries to better face with the climate change and improve the production.
I decided to come back to Colombia because my dream was to help to make better environmental projects. And during my PhD, I think I learned a lot and I was ready to go back and apply that knowledge.
I hope that the network that I'm able to build here can be leveraged to help them back in Africa.
We're going to create the thought leaders of tomorrow, the talent pool that is going to help lead us through the challenges that we're going to have to address in the future.
Young people should be absolutely buoyed and excited by the careers that they can pursue in the agri-food sector.
We are right now in the golden age of food science in all areas, from crop science to food science to animal science, molecular biology, in order to be fed into this transition.
We are a species that has an unbelievable ability to develop technologies, to work collaboratively together, to develop and co-develop effective solutions to major food system problems, and that while we should never take that adaptive capacity for granted, we actually have a lot to be optimistic about.
It's a huge task ahead of us, but I think with the innovation that we've seen in the sector, I'm confident that we can achieve that so that agriculture will be punching above its weight in terms of what it delivers to society.
It's important for us to pay attention to help all farmers. The risks to agriculture is not just being compounded, but it's getting more complex and uncertain. We need to bring everybody on board because every single type of farmer have their own contribution to the global food security.